everyone, and welcome to Healing Illinois, a special event brought to you this evening by Legacy Training Incorporated. Legacy is a pretty unusual organization. We have a big vision. Our vision is to alleviate poverty of the mind, the body, and the spirit. And how do we do that? We do that by promoting art and expanding health in underserved communities. When the opportunity came along to be a part of the Healing Illinois, we're so excited. It's a perfect fit to what we had planned to do. We have put together masters of their craft, what we're calling the Artist Collective on Race, Equity, and Unity. Let's face it, who on a Saturday night would really be here to talk about race? It's a tough, uncomfortable, unpopular topic. But boy, you're sure would love to come to hear artists, to hear their music, and hear their performances. So that we think of it like that. Our ultimate goal with this project is to keep the conversations going. Each of you are thought leaders, your influencers of your communities. Take these messages back to your tribes. Talk to that neighbor who works your nervous system because they're so different from you politically or socially or ethnically. And that's what we hope to do. We want to build bridges, we want to promote dialogue, and we want to bring together amazing artists to continue the conversation in communities like Alexander, Pulaski County, to some degree Jackson County, here in southernmost Illinois, that are very, very underserved, especially by artists of color. So that's why we're here tonight. I'm so glad that you are a part of it. My name is Lynn Chambers, by the way, and I guess I should have told you that in the beginning. And I'm the executive director and co-founder of Legacy Training, Inc. Tonight's performance is the third one. You have been with us for the first two, but in case you missed it, this is what happened. Our first artists were Samuel Hawkins and Jacob Gibson. And we challenged our African-American artists to go find a white artist and develop a collaboration. These two guys came together and put together masterful. I can get at least one amen because JJ was in the audience that night. We broadcasted live from the Harold S. Jones. Harold has a fine arts center, and Harold has been an amazing partner in our work as well. Second, we had an evening of inspiration. Oh, and by the way, shout out to the thought leader. I've invited co-facilitators that are culturally courageous white men to be a part of this. Somebody that maybe I don't work with typically, and some that I do. So our first co-facilitator for that event was Steve Heisner, and Steve is an executive. All Dippin' Dots and enjoyed that ice cream, right? This particular session after that featured Howard Hewitt, who is an internationally known vocalist. Yeah, everybody knows him. He did an amazing performance with us, along with local artists Rhonda Belford and Ziana Jones. And here we are tonight with the best of both worlds. This particular band came to our attention through a friendship between JJ, John James, and my mother. But anyway, Stephanie Fisher. Their friendship ignited a conversation between my mother and I about how powerful the experience of bringing these Black artists and white artists together that have very different musical styles, and the incredible project that they put together. So we are going to be enjoying their music, we're going to be hearing their stories, and we're going to be learning about your perspective on this whole Healing Illinois. And without further ado, one quick note of housekeeping. Our host has everyone muted so we can just enjoy the conversation. We're going to be joined very soon by the other co-facilitator, Joe Cervantes, and I'll stop and introduce him when he comes on the line. But the other really important thing is you can be part of the conversation. We're also streaming this on Facebook Live from Legacy Training Inc.'s page. You're welcome and encouraged to do the same thing. If you have questions down in the chat box, we will do our best to engage that way as well. And finally, this event will be archived on the Legacy Training Inc.'s YouTube channel. So we will have it for posterity. All right. Now I'd like to introduce Amiel Russell. Ami's going to do our last little bit of housekeeping about the post-event survey if you'd like to participate. So Amiel, our program coordinator for Healing Illinois.
Hi, everyone. My name's Amiel. I'm so happy to be working on this project, and it's great to be here tonight. I just wanted to say a little bit about our post-event survey. It's just a quick little 5-minute survey. I will post the link in the chat near the end of the event. So you can just click that. It will take you directly to the survey. And if you could fill that out, it helps us out so much to improve our future events. And to just give us some more insight on logistics and what we can improve on, what worked and what didn't. So that will be near the end. I'll just post that in the chat. So please be watching out for that. Thank you all.
Thank you, Amiel. And now without further ado, I'd like to present these gifts to us, the members of the Artists Collective that have joined us on this pioneer journey, the best of both worlds. I'd like to introduce you first to Kingsley Keys. And then you to meet the band members. But Kingsley is going to be kind of your DJ for tonight. He's helping us out on the technical side, and they will be putting forth their music from their project. So let's talk about Kingsley. Kingsley was born in Lincoln, Illinois. And you guys are brave. You got the years you were born and all that good stuff. So 1975. All right.
Yeah, me too. Great year. Great year.
Represented in saxophone in the 4th grade and has degrees in music from Illinois State University, as well as the University of West Georgia. He's been nominated as Educator of the Year in 2006 as a middle school band director. Oh my gosh, what a brave soul he is for the Springfield School District. And he's been a performer with many, many noted groups, such as the Ralph Carmichael Big Band, the Tulsa Praise Orchestra, and other best works. Kingsley is also a very accomplished jazz pianist. He performs actively as a solo act, all the while playing tenor sax with the best of both worlds. And of course, he's also involved with the praise team at the Westside Christian Church, playing both keys and saxophone. So what I want to do is to kind of break up the introductions a little bit. So that's Kingsley's long one. I'm going to get to your long one in a little abbreviated one with you introducing yourself. And we're going to go next to, is it Clay? Clay? All right. Clay, would you like to introduce yourself briefly and tell us what made you decide to join the Best of Both Worlds?
Yeah, my name's Clay Snyder. I was born the same year as Kingsley, 1975. I've been playing guitar since I was about 18 years old. And I'm self-taught. I've never taken a guitar lesson or anything like that. My dad played growing up and kind of got an ear for music and just learned by playing along to all of my favorite grunge CDs that I would listen to back in the 90s when I was in high school, Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all that kind of stuff. And over the years, just in my experience of playing music with people and playing at church, I met Mike Beyer, who I play music with for darn near 20 years at this point, yeah. I would say. And I've kind of been like the guy every now and then Mike would be like, hey, I need a guitar player for something. Would you come over? And so I'd come over and play guitar on all sorts of, many, many different things. And in this occasion, he's like, hey, I got this guy plays keyboards and has some really interesting musical ideas, and we need a guitar player. You want to come over and jam? So I came over to Mike's house in the basement, and the first time I'd ever met JJ. And that first night, I think we kind of wrote a song, if I remember correctly, just from just going back and forth and everything, and coming up with ideas. And that really was, and that was 99, January 99, was it?
2018.
Or yeah,
2019.
2019. Yeah, that's right. And it just kind of went from there. Just the ideas kept coming, and every time we got together, there would be a nucleus for another musical idea, and then another one, and another one, to the point where we were like, I think we need to do something with this. And we all kind of decided to do that. And then it turned into this. So it's kind of wild how it started with just the three of us jamming in the basement with a fake drummer on the computer. It's really funny.
Thank you, Clay. Thank you, Clay, for that background. And the only other thing that you didn't mention from your bio, you also play the mandolin, the drums, and the ukulele. And once again, self-taught.
Anything that I can get my hands on. I play bass too. Basically, all your typical rock band instruments.
Wow.
So
amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much. So why don't we go ahead and again, we're going to get to the expanded bios if we miss anything, but I'd like to ask Brother Jay to share next.
All right.
How did you come up with the title for your band, The Best of Both Worlds?
Fantastic. Well, just look at us. And we are a composite of individuals who come from different walks of life, obviously, who have different music experiences. Some, as you have read, Lynn, have professional training and are training others or have trained others. Right. Some of us grew up in church and had to pick up the beat to the song that was being sung extemporaneously. And so Mike Byer, who's sitting to my right, who's our band leader, bass player, engineer, master, mixer, and all that stuff. And we were just talking about titles of songs and possible titles of the band. And being around Mike and these other guys, you get inspired to think of the next song based upon a conversation that they have. And again, just looking at our tapestry, it just made sense to call ourselves the best of both worlds, because there's so much that is shared here that one person didn't house.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. So you guys actually inspired part of this vision when we thought we were elected for a long time. But at that time, it was really thinking about providing a platform for Black artists. But when the Best of Both Worlds, and Mom was telling me about that, I'm like, wait a minute, we need to really deal with a concept where we are bringing together art from all genres, all ethnicities, all musical styles, all period. So thank you for expanding that through your work. It really caused me to really expand my thinking us together for the best of both worlds. So thank you. JJ, it's very interesting how you came into the world of music. I love this about your grandmother's dream. Could you tell us just a little bit about that?
Well, we called her Big Mama, okay? My grandmother was born in 1905. I was born in 1966. Imagine that spread of time. But she had a personal relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. And the Lord would talk to her and give her dreams. And she pointed at me with her finger. She said, baby, and I was a young kid, the Lord showed me you're going to be playing the piano. Now, let me back it up a little bit. There's a gentleman who I need to pay big respect to, and that's my dad, Leonard Brown, who told me that I was not going to beat up the furniture because I was always beating on things. So he saw maybe the potential for rhythm. And he said, son, well, he called me boy. He said, you're going to play the drums. And so he made sure that I was able to secure a snare drum. It was costly back then, and a drum pad, which dampened the sound. And so he made sure I had drum lessons. Plus, I went to grew up in church, And I always looked at my cousin, we called him Skeeter, okay? But he was an amazing drummer and I wanted to be like Skeeter. And there were some Sundays when Skeeter didn't show up, guess who slid on the drums? But Big Mama said, baby, you're gonna be playing the piano. And she was the type of lady that you could go and play the drums or the piano after church and we couldn't play. So that's the inspiration right there, Big Mama, and that man right there, probably in the middle there, Leonard Brown, my dad. Love you, man.
Thank you, Dad, and rest in heaven, Big Mama.
Yeah,
So with that, and we're going to meet the rest of this amazing ensemble, but Kingsley, let's get into a little bit of music. Would you like to tell us about the first selection you'd like to share this evening?
Well, I think Mike would be a better one to share that. Let's go with
Well,
House on the Rock.
House on the Rock is most of the music. This man would come over to my house and pound something out on the piano, and we just I put a bass line down to it, and we just had everybody else put their stuff in it, and Kingsley and Jared just did their saxophone magic on it, and everything just kind of blossoms into it. And this has a lot of Spanish flavor to it. The other thing too is we tune to something called A444. Standard tuning is A440. And Mark is going to share a story about that a little bit later about why we tune to 444. But there are healing properties in 444. And so all of the music is tuned to that. And when you listen to the music, you're going to get uplifted by it. And just especially the saxophones and their great melodies.
Fantastic. I can't wait. So take it away.
Here we go.
Sorry,
Oh,
check.
you gotta get big with some.
Oh, absolutely love it. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. So we've got lots of fans. Guess what? We had a sponsor who is going to give away 3 of your CDs. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 25. You don't have to do it now, but at the end, we're going to do that by numbers and see who gives me the number closest to my number first, and you will get a CD to enjoy that work. All right. So thank you for that. We've been joined by my co-facilitator. He is a remarkable man. As I said, I appreciate folks that are culturally courageous. Healing Illinois is not about white shaming. We know that's absolutely what doesn't work. Our ground rule is we do not beat up on white folks, right? We are promoting that there's one race, it's the human race. There's one default response to any situation, and it's called a statement. So Joe, thank you. Will we be able to see your handsome face today? There he is. Joe Cervantes is the Jackson County State's Attorney. I've had the honor and privilege of working with him, and he's helped me a lot. He's mentored me, and I'm just very grateful he accepted my invitation. So Joe, you want to introduce yourself a little bit, chat a little bit as we enjoy these magnificent group of artists.
I appreciate the opportunity just to be here and to be able to just briefly speak. I'm the Jackson County State's Attorney here, and I am originally from the Chicagoland area. I think, not to bore anybody, I typically see a lot of people that are in my position. I see their resume a lot different than what mine is. I actually lost my parents when I was very young and went into the court system as a ward of the state. I am a high school dropout. I proudly say that. And somewhere along the way, I found my way. And it was because of positive influences that I had in the community, from football coaches who cared about me, even though I had dropped out of high school, to a number of other people in the community, including judges and people involved in the court system. So I found my way in the Marines. They wouldn't even take me in the Marines because I was a high school dropout. But I called one day, or they called me one day and said, "We have a spot. Can you ship tomorrow?" And I said, "Absolutely, I will." And so they did a waiver for me so that I could get in. My education was such that it wasn't even good enough to get into the Marines to hold a rifle. And eventually that's what I did. I was an infantry leader in the Marines for several years, served in active duty and the reserves. And every time I got a platform, I seemed like I needed a new platform. And I eventually made my way to law school. I have no idea how I got in. I didn't have the study techniques and the skills from high school to even get into college. Somehow I got in with a GED to college. I wasn't serious about college. I just was doing it as I was doing it. And again, I just didn't have the skills that I needed to succeed in college very well. And the Marines kind of changed that for me. Again, always lagged behind because of that poor foundation that I had as a kid. But it was enough to keep pushing me forward. And eventually I graduated law school to speed things up a little bit. Never thought I would be in the courtroom, but I had an opportunity to become assistant state's attorney in Williamson County. And I took the traffic docket. And I started having flashbacks about how things were when I was a kid. Not being able to afford insurance on my vehicle, being pulled over and without insurance, having my license suspended because I couldn't afford to get insurance or to get my license reinstated, getting driving while license suspended tickets, getting put in jail overnight because I didn't have a driver's license, continuously getting in trouble and going down this path. Being in the traffic courtroom reminded me of my past, because I saw young men and women coming in the courtroom that were very similarly situated as I was when I was a kid. And so we started trying to come up with programs to try to help them out because I knew about this. The system is automatic, like a drive-through. You pull through and they'll give you your bag and send you on your way. And that's not the way the system is supposed to be. It should be compassionate, and it should make sure that we are lifting people up instead of pushing them away or keeping them down. And so I started getting this idea to change the system, but it was too hard to do it as an assistant. I moved up the ranks. I went to Saline County and I took the juvenile docket over. And again, started reminding me of the kids that were just like me, that just needed positive influences in their life. You can take negative influences away from kids, but if you don't fill those back in with positive influences, it's for naught. And we just didn't have the resources down here in Southern Illinois. So I quit and I became a defense attorney. As a defense attorney, I saw some nasty things about our system that I just couldn't change from outside of the system. So I ran for Jackson County State's Attorney. This is the most diverse county in Southern Illinois. And if we can't change things from outside the system, we'll change things from inside. And the way we do that is one program at a time, and leading by example to let other counties know this is how we can do it. The way that you're doing it is fine, but we can do it better. And so since I've taken office, I'm proud of the several programs that we did. And to end my little introduction, the very first program I did when I got elected was a warrant amnesty program for our traffic system. So we didn't have young men and women being afraid to drive to work because they had a warrant out for their arrest. We wanted to make sure that they could confidently get their kids to school, to get to work, and to get back on track instead of being afraid of leaving their home because of a traffic warrant. So I'm very proud, even though it seems like a very small program, it was one that's an example of things to come. So it's great to be here tonight, and I'm looking forward to the discussion and to hear from all the wonderful people that are logging in, and then afterwards to continue the discussion and work with anybody and answer phone calls from anybody who wants to talk about programs or to push this idea forward. So thanks so much for letting me be here, and I look forward to tonight.
Thank you. And as I didn't mention in my introduction is I do a lot of Joe and I to be friends. It's almost like criminal defense attorneys and prosecutors don't usually hang out. But as you can tell, Joe, thank you for sharing that, by the way. And thank you for your transparency. He is definitely the exception and not the rule. But we need more. We need more of the Joes in the world that get. A lot of people wind up in the criminal justice system because of poverty. And we've got to really just look at action for another day. And of course, as we unfortunately know, if we are in areas where people of color are also in those poverty pockets, they're disproportionately represented in our system. So that's something that's going to be another conversation, Joe. Thank you. Let's go back to having a conversation now about some things with best of both worlds. First of all, let me finish and make sure that you know everyone. So that last song, lots of that Spanish flair, which is a conversation Joe and I had, that people, brown people, Latinx communities, and African-American communities, I don't think work together and do things like we could do too. So that's another conversation. We'll bookmark that. But Mike, I noticed when I look at your bio as well, you have worked with amazing musical legends like Mel Torme and Doc Severinsen from the Tonight Show back in the day. Oh my gosh, and you've opened for BB King. That's just amazing, and the stories you must have. So Mike is the mastermind of the group. Would you like to have a few comments and talk to us maybe a little bit about the difficult conversation that your band had to have after the George Floyd incident? JJ shared a little bit of that with me, but I'd like to hear your perspective on that.
Well, when we all got together after that, we saw what a tragic thing it was. And for us, we could not really understand and relate to what they went through. And so when we talked about it, we had a really very, very open dialogue with about their experience with it, how it affected their families. And you have to understand, I was an educator for 22 years at Southeast in an interracial school, and Clifton is one of my students. And so, and Jared also is one of my students. And for us to really see how it affected them, it kind of opened our eyes to really see, you know, even though we deal with them as musicians and we kind of are in their lives a little bit, but we didn't see how it affected their personalities and how it would shifted our gears to think about, okay, well, what is our purpose? You know, we're making music. We want people to be happy. We're all Christians. We want the Lord to be represented in that way. And then Kingsley came and said, well, you know, maybe it's because we're interracial. Maybe we're supposed to show harmony. And
Exactly.
so when tragedies like this happens with George Floyd, that it's like that people of color, any color, that we can get together and get along and create things and show love and show harmony. And that's kind of what we've been focusing about and talking about after that incident.
Thank you. That is powerful. That is powerful. Jared, let's have an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. Where are you joining us from tonight, Jared?
Yeah. So
yes. Where are you joining us from tonight?
Yes, I'm at my home. So I'm in O'Fallon, Illinois, which is about 15 minutes outside of St. Louis. Actually 15 minutes from downtown St. Louis. So in the Metro East area of Illinois.
And you have also have a very, very impressive musical background. You play alto sax, keyboards, and resources manager. Sidebar, I need to talk to you at some point too. I got some issues. But I noticed that you've played with Henry Miles of Earth, Wind and Fire. Now, was that when they had the horn section that played with them, Don Miner, that really famous piece from Reasons? Is that, I'm not familiar with Henry Miles, and I thought I knew a lot about Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yeah, so Henry Miles is originally from Springfield, Illinois. I'll say he was an influence to me. Definitely one of the more well-known tenor saxophonists in the area. And so coming up, you know, him and my dad, you know, had connections, and some of my other family members, as well as another Mike Byer disciple by the name of Kenny Humble. And so I got exposed to Henry Miles at an early age, in my early years, and so he was definitely an encouragement to me as I progressed with my saxophone playing.
Thank you. And I'd like to hear your perspective, because again, you know, not only are we diverse in terms of our perspectives, but also, you know, intergenerational exchanges here. So we heard from your friend, your mentor, your colleague. Tell me about that tough conversation you had with Floyd's murder.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously that was a tragedy that impacted everyone in various ways, regardless of race, regardless of your background, socioeconomic background. You know, I'll speak personally from my perspective. You know, that's unfortunately has been the reality of much of my life, all of my life, growing up as a Black male. You know, you always, my parents, in particular my mom, just those little lessons that you don't necessarily think about. For example, you know, don't walk in the store with your hands in your pockets. It took me a while to wrap my head around that, but I learned that lesson. Something like that happening definitely sort of brings all that to bear. I mean, it's tough. I don't know how else to say it. It's tough to deal with, but it's definitely a reality that is on my mind. And even, as me and my wife get ready to bring our son into the world, it's definitely a conversation that at some point I'll have to have with him. I don't think it's, shall I say, something that can be swept under the rug. It's just the reality that we have to deal with and somehow come together to push forward through.
Appreciate your perspective, and congratulations on that little king or queen that you're bringing into the world.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. What do you have prepared for us next?
Oh,
We're gonna go with Open the Gate.
Open the gate.
Yeah.
Tell us about Open the Gate.
We were kind of, I think it was one of the seconds, actually, the first song we actually wrote was called Open the Gate, and we were just jamming on it. And we were talking about, well, what do we want to call it? And so we were talking about like, well, whatever. And there was a painting hanging on in the wall of my basement, which is where we practiced at. And it was this gate that swung open. And we said, well, how about Open the Gate? And so like whoever listens to it, maybe open the gate of God's love to come in. That's what we kind of thought about it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. The best of both worlds, Open the Gate.
Very simple.
He's all right.
Simple.
Me too.
And get by.
Me too. That was me faking John Mayer.
There you go.
Just love it. Love it. Oh my gosh. So we put information on the screen about how people can access your music. Go ahead and type in the chat box. What's your guess for the number that I was thinking about between 1 and 25 so you can get a copy of this project, Dream Come True, the masterpiece by the Best of Both Worlds. Let's meet the rest of the band. So we've not heard from Clifton Jones, Mr. Jones, front and center, and we've not heard. Okay, so why don't we talk to you a little bit? Clifton was born also in Springfield, Illinois.
Time it is.
And he's also a protege, I think, of Mike. So tell us about yourself, Mr. Jones.
Y'all funny, man.
Mr. Jones.
Oh,
Mr. Jones.
y'all got jokes. My name is Clifton Jones. Born and raised here in Springfield, Illinois. 90s baby. And I pretty much am just a regular guy. And that's it. That's all.
Do you play music by any chance? What
Oh.
Hey, start singing
Right.
now. You can play. Let's go.
Oh my
Let's try
God.
this.
All right. I play anything I could get my hands on. That's what I believe. And I play in church. I play in a few states. And yeah, I'm just
You music
I'm a-
director of?
and I'm the music director of Pastor Jerry Jones and the Fantastic Jones family.
Oh, all right. And now listen, when you play, and we're going to have you for the press, because you probably need to talk about, by the way, I'm a musician, right?
I am a musician. I've played
And
with,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I've not only played with my family, but I've been blessed to appear and actually fill in with some major artists across the gospel genre. I've actually had the pleasure of sharing the stage with Bobby Jones and the Nashville Super Choir. I've had the pleasure of playing behind Lisa Noel Smith and the Browns. I've had the pleasure of playing for Spencer Taylor and the Highway QCs, George Dean and the Gospel 4, the Wells Brothers. I actually had a chance to fill in, and I just got this opportunity to fill in as a keyboard player on the record for John P. Key this summer. So
Wow. Well, get us some information. We may have to come. And I'm just so excited about live music and get you to my mother's a huge John P. Keys fan, so that's wonderful. And let me share this with you. I'm also a businesswoman, so it's okay to brag about your accomplishments that God has given you a gift to do.
Come on now.
Come on.
It's okay.
Yes.
All right.
I'm sorry.
We're excited. We're excited for the great things that are ahead. And then certainly, Brother Mark, we wanted to learn a little bit about you. I've often heard it said the party doesn't start till the drummer gets there, right? So tell us a little bit about your musical journey. And Brother Mark, tell us about that and tell us about your Best of Both Worlds experience.
Well, first off, I want to just say I'm very grateful that my mother, raising 10 children, was loving enough to believe in me. Even when I didn't even really understand where I was going with music, I started on 2 Folgers coffee cans. And first song that I ever heard and played was Mission Impossible. And from that point on, she loved me, and she saw something in me and bought me my first pair of bongos, and from there, a set of congos, and ended up playing with a lot of secular groups back then, a lot of funk bands, which a lot of people don't even know what funk bands are, but that's what we did. And, so I went on and when I gave my life to the Lord, was blessed to be able to connect. Didn't even understand that road that I was going on, but got a chance to play with quite a few top gospel artists. For example, like Brother was saying, one was got Blaine Bartell. I got to play with Paul Balash, played with him for many years. Let's see, Shekinah Glory, someone else, Matthew Ward, played with them. So, the Lord opened up doors throughout the years. And when you look back, it causes you to be very humble and very grateful that how he does these things. In the same way, just like we got connected with Best of Both Worlds, John James, I'd known him for a few years and knew that he played drums, but was gifted. But later on, come to find out that he was a keyboard player and hadn't seen him for a while. And one day I was being delayed after service and driving home, stopped at this red light and looked over, and there was John James at the red light. And we were speaking to each other at the red light. And I pointed over at him. I said, brother, you're going to begin to just create just varieties of music. And from that day forward, he would text me songs that he was working on, like sometimes midnight, sometimes early in the morning. And he would say, well, what do you think? And we were grateful to see that how the Lord, when we walk in obedience, can order our footsteps and bring us into connection like he's done. And so from this whole journey, it's been a very powerful thing of what's happened to this point.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So you guys are just amazing. So that's a perfect segue into my next question, and then we'll hear some more music. But why are communities why are we so segregated? Why can't we worship together? What are your thoughts on that? And Joe, you can weigh in too.
I think it's just that where you grow up, you go to church, and you don't step out of that church to go to somebody else's church. And my first experience in an African-American church was Clifton's older cousin, Carla, said it. She was my student. She said, hey, Mr. Byer, you want to come and hear the Jones family? And so I went to hear them play, and it was like, wow, this was really different, because I grew up Lutheran with the organ and singing the hymns and everything, and we got to worship God that way. But then when they did their music, I saw how his family worshiped the Lord. I've been in Mark's church, and it's completely different. I've been in JJ's church, completely different. Our church that we go to, everything is pretty much scripted. I've been in churches where the Holy Spirit just flows. And so I think it's just that people don't venture out of their comfort zone to really go see how God can be worshiped in other churches. And, God created us all, no matter what color we are, how tall we are.
Amen.
So he can be worshiped, whether it's in a white church or an African-American church or a Korean church or wherever. And I think he enjoys that too. But as his followers too, we also need to venture out and say, you know what, I'm going to go with my brother here, and I'm going to go to church with him and just enjoy his company and see how he worships. And I think that's really how the conversation has to start. People are just afraid to step out. You have to just step out and go out and experience and be with people.
Yeah. I think it's important for the heads of the houses, for the pastors to see the importance of how they've been positioned to lead their congregation, and what the scriptures are saying. You know what I mean? Jesus blood was for all mankind. It wasn't for blacks, whites, whatever, it was for all. And so when we get to that understanding of what he came into this world for, and what our mandates are on our lives are for, to share that level and not just contain it in our little four walls. It's meant for us to go out to the highways and the byways and compel men and women. And so this is how this is working. We look at one another. It's not based upon, we think, you interpret the scripture this way, or you don't pray this way. We're looking at the fact that if you believe Jesus is your Lord and Savior, you know, that's enough. That's enough,
But
right?
let me follow up. The other piece really divides us are there. What about a Catholic? What about a Muslim? What about a Jew? What about, you know, Christians kind of get siloed from time to time, not only by our race and our ethnicity, but within our denominations. Church of God in Christ, the holiness folks don't hang out with us Baptists, and, you know, all of these things that, you know, seek to divide us.
Mhm.
White evangelicals. What a Christian that is about social justice. We worship the same Lord, but we are very different in what we would feel. So what are some thoughts? What are some thoughts on getting past that? How do we reach beyond all of those religious divisions as well?
Well, I think the key is to recognize and realize why we do what we do, right? It's not about any particular person. It's not about any particular denomination, right? So oftentimes we get caught up in, oh, I'm Baptist and Baptists do it this way, or like you said, Church of God in Christ do it that way. The how behind it is really irrelevant. It's the why that should unite us. And if the why is not the same reason, well, then that's a problem. Because at the end of the day, it's about Jesus Christ, or however, you know, whoever you call Lord. It's about him. And so all things we do should point to him.
So communities of faith have often been leaders in social justice change. So that's going to be our next conversation. Joe, did you have anything to add next?
Well, I will quickly chime in. I mean, somebody had already said that traditions vary greatly from one church to the other. And you could have four churches within a half-mile radius, and they worship much differently. And I think that's great. I think that one of the issues has been, though, is that we have systematically removed religion from common everyday life. And we used to really rely on the churches a lot more and faith leaders a lot more as mentors in our community. And I think with the separation of church and state has gone so far as to start thinking that means an absence of religion from our everyday life. If you think about it, more and more, speaking about religion is almost taboo when we're in a lot of different venues, right? We tend to start thinking, well, that's for Sunday morning and that's for my church. And I think that's dangerous. We've taken faith leaders out of things like programs from probation and from the courthouse and from the juvenile justice system. And we've started relying on general counselors and state-based programs. Back in the day, I mean, the original charities were the church. And the farther we get away from that, the more division we're gonna start seeing in the churches. We have a faith leaders conference coming up with the state's attorney's office here, so I can start getting them involved in programs a lot more. But I think that we have to do more to be accepting, not just within the walls of our church, but also outside the walls of our church, and not be afraid to talk about religion like it's this secret. Politics has been the other thing. You know, I couldn't tell you how very difficult it was to talk about platforms that I had in a lot of different places. You go in somewhere and they say, oh, no, we don't talk about politics here. That's the same thing with religion. No, we don't talk about religion here. I think somebody's going to have to start making taking some steps forward and reaching their hands out and start having more public venues for religious activities. I think there's nothing wrong with that. We just have to be open to it.
Thank you, Joe. All right. Bookmark, you'll need to give us information on this Faith Leaders Conference, how we can support you and get people involved. Kingsley, let's hear some more music. What do you have queued
Yeah.
up next?
We're gonna have a phone call from Pops, and this is about JJ's
Over there.
dad. But Mike,
JJ came over one night and we were just messing around with some music, and he had these chords and I had this bass line and stuff like that. And we came up with this little riff before we had everybody else, and he gets a phone call from his pops. And it was just so apropos that it's phone call from Pops. And so when you hear some people in the beginning, it's JJ talking to his pops, but actually Clifton is the pops, if you hear, when you listen to it.
That's how it go, man. That's how it go.
Hey, Pops, how you doing there?
Hey, son.
Good to hear from you.
It's good to hear from you too, son. A lot's been going on. You got a few minutes to talk to me?
Yeah, I got some time to talk to you.
Listen. love you, son.
That's Jared Hill on saxophone.
Wonderful. Yay.
Get money.
That was just beautiful. That was beautiful. And you know, we have that challenge in so many of our communities where we don't have as part of the family structure and the system. So I especially appreciated that song. Thank you.
Hey, can I say something? Hey, Lynn, can I say
Certainly,
something?
certainly.
So very fortunate. Again, I've already recognized my dad, but it's also my wife's birthday today. So I want to say, I see my sister Cameron Kim, and I see my cousin Terry, and some others. So I got to get a shout out right there.
Go ahead,
But,
sing to it.
oh, man. But the importance to me of that song is a son needing someone to show him the best way to treat people. And so I have a great example of my dad who taught me how to treat folks. You know, he gave me the talk. You know, he often told me, and he can nod his head and let me know, hey, you know, you're a young athlete or whatever. You're gonna actually have to be better, because in this world, it's gonna be tougher. You're gonna be graded different than maybe your white counterparts. And so he grew up in the 60s. So he saw some things that I didn't see. So he had to bring the best of his world into my world so that he could shape my identity. And so today I don't have to wear a shirt and tie to work, but I do because of him. I don't have to shave, you know, the popularity now is a beard, but I do because I saw him. So he marked me for the rest of my life. And so I am the man I am because he's here. My mother's passed, you know, but I also have these men here who happen to be from different walks of life, as I mentioned before. And so I believe it's our assignment to take the mantle from, you know, men like my dad.
Yeah.
And then to connect with the next generation, because the next child who gets stopped by a police officer who happens to be Black, we want that child to know that they are somebody, that God loves them, and that you can live to see tomorrow. So I also had a phone call from a guy I played basketball with a couple of years ago. Actually, the phone call was this a couple of weeks ago. He's a white state police officer. He said, JJ, I have some coworkers, and obviously they were white. Hey, we want to change the scenario. Can we come and visit your program where you work with kids? We're not going to come as police officers. We want to come as dads. And so my program, the majority of kids this year are African American. It was amazing to see a flow of love from these police officers who could stop them, detain them, and send them up the road towards incarceration. Decide and say, you know what? I know what you've seen on TV. I know what you might have heard about us, but let me show you someone different. Okay. And I got that from my dad right there. Love you, man.
Thank you. What a tribute. Kingsley, what do you think? Is the notion that Black people have to be twice as good as white people, is that real? Is that a part of white privilege?
I don't know. That's a question I had with JJ just a few days ago. I asked him, I said, hey, do you ever feel any pride in the fact that you're way better in basketball than me? Do you ever, and can play music better? Because I thought, because in a way, I kind of actually like it. I hate the fact that Black men have been suppressed. I hate what the oppression and the stuff that's happened in this country, but in a kind of an odd way, I like it that you're better in basketball than me and that you're better and in music. Do they have to be twice as good? I don't know. But I do want to.
I think that Black people it's always been accepted that Black people are better athletes or are better musicians. I mean, that's the issue, but is he better as a CEO? Is he better as an attorney? Is he better as a teacher? Does he have to be twice as good in those professions as well? I'm just throwing that out to the group. Where do we get that from? Why do we have those conversations?
I think it's really, to be honest, because that question has stemmed since I was a child, and it's taken me back to an experience I had where I lived between me and my white friend. Rest in peace, Zach. His dad was a construction guy, and my dad was a secretary. And for a white man to tell me as a young kid that, people will tell you have to be twice as good, but being yourself is the best part. Whereas my father, from where we grew up, in the neighborhood we started at, we had to be twice as good. But to know that there's a difference between how people are brought up, it would make the world a lot more, it would bring people a lot closer if we really discuss the issue of being twice as good. Because there are some people who believe that being twice as good as a Black person, whether they're white or Caucasian or indifferent, it doesn't exist. And I guess that's just sometimes the real issue. Because as Kingsley said, I actually like the fact that, you're better than me at a certain sport. But growing up as a kid, from my perspective, to have a dad tell me that his kid is better than me in English because he's white, versus me being more musically inclined because I'm Black, really kind of deterred my mind as a 7-year-old. And to think that a grown man, a 40-year-old grown man, would tell a 7-year-old kid that, you do have to be twice as good, because that's just the way the world works and how people will see you. Now, was he a racist? By no means. He welcomed me in his home as if I was his own. But from his perspective and how he grew up in the country versus him growing up in the city, he said, I saw a lot of things different. He said, my grandfather, they didn't believe that I should be friends with Black kids. They didn't believe my children should have Black friends. And for my parents to tell us that, yes, it is white and Black, but to a certain extent, you still have to love everybody the same, because the same grace that God gives you, he gives them.
Amen.
And once we really get into the mindset of knowing that, yes, being twice as good as a Black person exists, but yes, in some scenarios, being twice as good as a white person exists also. So for me to be twice as good in certain areas, it would cause you to be twice as good. So you would have to be twice as good, as you said, as an athlete compared to me. Because normally when they see me come on the floor, it's like, oh, he's a big guy. So that means he probably got a shot or he can dunk, which both of them are true. But to see you come on the court at your size, we would look at you and say, oh, stick this person on by just looking at you. So I don't think it's just being twice as good as a Black person, because there are certain scenarios where Black people have a sense of white people have to be twice as good at something to be accepted.
Wow.
That's interesting.
And I think we should always be considerate of other people, which is, even the Bible explains it, judge lest not you be judged. And, even the men who had stones in their hand, ready to stone a woman to death. He said, he who is without sin cast the first stone, and none of them threw it. Why? Because all of them have sin. There is no greater sin than anybody. But back to what the point is. Being twice as good as a Black person doesn't exist. But being twice as good as a white person doesn't exist. It does exist. Being twice as good as an Asian person, it exists in all races. And I think the sooner the world figures out that we are all equal in the same right, the better we'll be. But it's going to change with all of us taking it one step at a time and knowing that there is really the best of both worlds, no matter what color you are. So that's just my take on it.
Amen to that.
Well, all you can do is say amen to that. You better preach. He's going to pass that plate.
That's Jared. That's Jared's job.
Right.
That's Jared's job.
Excellent.
I'm going to go ahead, and there's not a lot that you really want to say other than let me announce that Libby Tara, and DeSand are going to be blessed with your seed. And so please, yeah. The number I had in mind was 15. So please message me privately and give me your mailing address so we can make sure that you get the CD. For the rest of the folks that would love to have this conversation, bring you to their communities to perform, how do we make that happen? Let's put that in the chat box. Kingsley, you want to answer?
As to how to make that happen?
Yes. How do we get in touch with you to perform or to bring you to Southern Illinois? Who would we contact?
Well, you can go to bestofbothworlds444.com. You can email me. My name is on the screen, kingsleykeys@gmail.com.
Facebook page too, right?
We have a Facebook page. If you look up Best of Both Worlds on our Facebook page, we'll receive those messages. Yeah, there you go. There's that.
That's the beauty. That is the beauty of a virtual environment. We can stay connected and reach out and be a part of what we're all doing. All right. So we have that, and I hope that you guys will take an opportunity to bring them to your city, village, community, tribe. All right. One last song for us this evening.
Just do drinks.
Evening.
No, you haven't done That Sweet yet. You haven't done That Sweet.
That's sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, That's Sweet. That's sweet. That's sweet.
All right.
This is Kingsley on the sax here.
The first song featured Jared on the alto, and this one is called That's Sweet. And it was the same thing. Jared did one take on that song, and Kingsley came and did That Sweet one take. And you get to see what talented saxophone players we really have.
Yeah. Well, since they're going to play a song of mine, then why don't I throw a little something in too? It's my birthday next week, but it was also my dad's birthday.
Oh, yeah.
I lost my dad a year ago.
Wow.
My dad was an upright bass player. And just like JJ was saying about his dad, I saw my dad be a giver. He was such a giver. In 1985, I drove over to Precious and Emmanuel Butler's house, his Black friends of ours, and he took our van, which they bought from us. And after they made a couple payments, he just forgave the rest of the $6,000. We just drove over there. He gave him the title. And I saw him give the title like that to a lot of people. He gave a lot of cars away. And my dad was a giver. And so fortunately, I never had any racist kind of thing going on. But if you remember in 1987, when baby Jessica, if you're 45 years or older, baby Jessica fell down a well, and she was in Texas, and the nation's eyes were locked on her. And after 2 days, they finally brought her out, and tears were in most people's eyes when they saw her come out. And I've said to my students often, if that was you, and I look right at the Black kids, right at the white kids, that doesn't matter. If you right now fell in a well outside the back of our school at Franklin Middle School, the entire school, the entire city would stop. Firefighters of all nationalities, everybody would stop and come and give every single possible resource to get you out because of the value of who you are. And honestly, I've never had a bone in my body want to make racial equity, make a change. But what I did have as a kid was every kid I saw that was a newcomer to my school or someone that was an outsider, I gravitated towards them because the love of Jesus had been poured into me from my sister, who's supposed to be on here. I don't know if she is. She led me to the Lord when I was 7. And when I would see anybody as an outsider, I would just go to them and try to ease the pain. When I began to go to college and I met all these international students, I would learn how to say hello in all their languages, and I learned to speak Spanish and Korean, and because I wanted to ease their pain. I've been to Guatemala. This is going on 10 years now, 7 times in 10 years, Venezuela, Mexico, much of times. And I see the kids and I just want to go and ease their pain. We put shoes on their feet and food in their mouths. So from the perspective of what should we do? I don't know what to do. I don't know if you got to be twice as good as me. I mean, I understand it all, but what I do know is if you don't have a heart for other people, you're never going to change.
Right.
Exactly. There it is.
But the
Right
people
there.
that aren't going to change need the people who have a heart for other people to reach out across. Just today, and he's on here, I met my neighbor down the road, Terrence Magruder. I saw him join a little while ago. My boys and I were walking down the street, and I've been wanting to meet him. He's my black neighbor. He's got 6 kids. I can right now tell you all the details of his kids, where he's from, Sacramento, Springfield, Quincy, Hannibal, Missouri. Just because when I saw him, I said, man, I want to know this guy. I've been wanting to know him for a few days, few weeks, because I've seen them move in. And it's not because he's black. It's because I just wanted to share the love of Jesus with him. And then I found out he's a believer and he's looking for a church, and he's also looking for to learn some audio stuff. He's taking audio classes, learn how to mix and master, and I'm going to connect him with this guy. And so when I joined these guys, it wasn't because they were black and white. It's just because, dude, this dude could play piano. This dude's good on the congas, and this guy is just a freak of nature.
Yeah.
Freak of nature.
Yeah.
A good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a good way. In a good
Not
way.
one.
He's the best of his own world. So, no.
And Jared too.
And Jared.
Hi, Jared.
It's hard because Jared's on the screen with it. He's not right here in person, but Jared's awesome too. So anyway, so I'll kind of dedicate this song. Are we playing That Sweet?
That's sweet. Yep. I want to hear you play sax.
This song is called That Sweet. It just came one day. JJ and I and Mike, we were doing a recording session, and I put my saxophone away already. And I heard JJ playing something down on piano. And so I thought, well, I'll just grab my sax. And honestly, I hated it the first time. But what you're about to hear is the same. It's the same thing we laid down those 10 minutes about 2 years ago. So this is That Sweet. Give me a second here to pull it up.
So what's that commentary?
Where's That Sweet?
Right there. Nice ring.
The rose ring.
There you go. There you go,
That
Lynn.
was absolutely fantastic. So as we finish up this evening, we've got some fantastic comments in the box. Go ahead and show Best of Both Worlds some love in your comments section. And your hearts how much we have enjoyed this evening, how much we appreciate the opportunity to have had this conversation and for you to be a part of Healing Illinois. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you.
I have just a couple of housekeeping notice. I see DeSand R is one of our visual artists. We have 3 more, count them, 1, 2, 3 more Healing Illinois on race, unity, and equity. Our visual artists will be presenting a visual art show on Juneteenth. So quick quiz, who knows what Juneteenth is? There you go. Look at my enlightened group, my educators. So Juneteenth in Carbondale has been celebrated for a long time. We're partnering with Carbondale United. That particular show, hopefully from the African American Museum. DeSand is going to be educating us on the Crown Act, which is new legislation that basically says you can't mess with a Black woman and her hair. Yay, Crown Act. So she's also developed a response to that. We have Mike Ferris, who is the former art leader for Shawnee Community College. He did a powerful series of work about the Springfield riot. So you Springfield folks know a little bit of that. He'll be educating on that. Robert Ketchens, who is the original co-founder of Legacy, also a magnificent visual artist, has done a study on the blues. He went to the Mississippi Delta and produced some amazing work. So he's going to be presenting his Song from the Field series. And last but not least, Najjar Abdul Muzawir, who is a local art historian and professor, will round up. So that's going to be a visual art show. It's a group show. That's going to be on June the 19th. And we will mark your calendar with Carbondale United. We also are doing Healing Through Hip Hop. We have Callan Nanny and Cliff Davis from Paducah, Kentucky, that will be doing a show with positive hip hop and also talking from a young person's perspective. They will be on Zoom with us on June the 12th from 7 to 9 p.m. And our final performance, I went out of order. I'm sorry. So if you're looking, so June the 12th, June the 19th, and then our last one, the end of June, the last Saturday, we have Doreen Ketchens Jazz. And if you have not heard of Doreen, she's an internationally known clarinetist, New Orleans style jazz. So we are happy that she's also performing with a local master educator, John Windings. So that will be the end of our Healing Illinois conversation. And masters of the conversations will never end, and that you've lit the candle that I talked about earlier in your community. Joe, do you have any final comments, questions, anything that you'd like to share? Tell us about the Faith Leaders Conference.
Mute.
You're muted, Joe.
Right now, I'm trying to work on a comprehensive program to curb violent crime in the community, specifically between the ages of 16 and 24. And one of those, one of the resources that I want to use in that program has to do with mediation and mentors in the community and reaching out. And these mediations, or I should say interventions for violent crime, they have to do with an actual professional interventionist But when we have those intervention programs, what we need is we need faith leaders involved, because the churches are such a big part of some of the close communities here in Jackson County. So without the faith leaders trying to get some of those young men and women involved, I think the mediations and interventions won't be as valuable. And so we want to meet with them and see who's going to have a seat at the table, who wants a seat at the table, give them a seat at the table, and start utilizing some of the leaders in our community, like our faith leaders, to help our young men and women come along.
Thank you. That will please let us know, the Legacy family. Be sure and make sure we have your contact information. You can go and register through the website for our newsletter, and we will disseminate information both through that vehicle and as well as our Facebook page. So with that, once again, we have 1 minute left. So thank you. This has been an amazing event. Remember to foster cultural resiliency in your children and our of us, and listen to this phenomenal music, healing music from the best of both worlds. We love you. God bless you. We will see you for the next event.
Thank you, Lynn.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Get ready for album 2. Album 2's coming out.
2022.
All right. We're looking forward to it. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody. Stay safe.
Good night.
Stay masked up, prayed up,
Right.
vaccinated up. We're getting through. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
That was beautiful. See you, Jared.
See you, Jared.
Good job, man.
All right,
We're still on.
I had to get it out. You're still muted.
See ya.
Thanks, Matthew and Carolyn. Sherry, Lynn,
Lina,
Carolyn,
Jeanette, Lakeisha.
Jeanette. Hey, Jeanette's on there.
Keisha here. Keisha.
Hey.
Keisha.
Keisha, you better say hey to somebody on here.
Terry, what's up, my cousin Terry? What's up, cuz? What's up, Pops?
Shout out to all you guys.
Thank
Great
you.
album. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Lina. Hi, Lina.
Hi.
What's up? What's up?
Miss you, Lina.
Good to
Miss
see
you too.
All right. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you for
Ladies,
coming, guys, very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle
My-
Keys.
Hey, Michelle.
My
Hey,
wife.
Michelle. All right.
Jeanette, Carolyn.
Yep. Jeanette Peak. That's Paul and Jeanette. I mean, you did a great job. Good job.
Thank you, Amy.
Oh, thanks, guys. I really enjoyed tonight.
Thank you.
thank you.
Yep. Best wishes. Best wishes.
Yeah. Trying to give everyone a chance to check out the chat box before they leave. So we'll be the last ones on.
Okay.
So, all right.
Mm-hmm.
There's your band instructor.
Hey.
Hey, Marari. Hi there.
Hi, Mr. Keys. What's up, kid?
Yeah. You look about the same,
Is
right?
that an iPhone charger?
Yes.
You say you look about the same.
Can I snag that? Yep, I need it.
Huh?
Not gonna act like I ain't. And I don't.
Oh, you watched it, kid?
Look at that.
Well, thank you. You see Pop still on the screen?
No, she got out.
He's waving at you, Marari. This is my daughter, Amy, on the phone. Yep.
Hi.
Now, the contract, what do we need to do? We need to send it back to you for a continuation? What's the plan there?
Yes, please. Just, I guess just one of the band members can sign it, or you all can initial and sign. Whatever you want to do is fine. But, it's nothing major. It just gives us permission to use your likeness and your music and stuff to promote. It
Mother Phillip.
is, an agreement to keep doing stuff like this with us. And it also says that we don't want any commission or any money from you, basically. So, yeah.
Sure.
Cool.
Did you email that to JJ?
Yes.
Okay, we'll look at it and then we'll sign it.
Okay, Great, thank you. I think I may have sent it to you, Kingsley, too.
Okay.
Okay.
But at least one of you should have it. All right, well, we are emptying out here, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the meeting. Thank you guys so much. This is amazing. It's great working with you all. Good night.
Good night.